I've been asked a few times about handling large projects in Studio. I have done a couple of massive projects. In this video, I'm going to show you a few tips that will hopefully make it a bit easier for you to handle large projects in Studio. One of the things about Studio, if you've ever done a very large project in Studio, you know that it takes up a lot of memory, and due to the fact that there's a few memory leaks in Studio, this applies even if you have a lot of memory available. Studio tends to take up a lot of resources when you have a lot of parts on the screen. So I'm going to cover a few things that I have talked about before, like using submodels, and I'm going to also show you some new things that I have found very useful for creating large models. So this is a project I'm currently working on. It is going to be about 60,000 parts, possibly more, when it is finished. It's a huge model of a mansion, and its ending dimensions will be around 4 feet by 4 feet and 32 inches tall. So I'm going to use this model to demonstrate some of the methods that you can use in order to make a large project easier to manage. Just as a quick reminder, I am a Lego commission artist. I've done all sorts of designs for people all around the world, from commercial to personal collections. If there's a project you have in mind that you would like to be brought into brick form, all of my contact information is in the description below. Also, if you are on Facebook, we have the Studio Lego Designers Facebook group. This is a group for new users and advanced users to be able to ask questions, share their designs, and create a strong Studio community. So if you want to check that out, the link is in the description below. All right, let's get to this. So first of all, as I mentioned before, what you're going to want to do is use lots of submodels. And I mean lots of submodels. Everything that you can break down into a submodel is going to help you stay organized with your design. For instance, if we go to the drop-down menu above the step list here, it's going to show you all the submodels that I have in this model. So I couldn't even guess. There might even be 100 submodels so far in this model alone. For instance, if we take a look at this section here, this tower, let's go open that up in its own submodel. Notice comparably, it's much easier now to move this model around than what it was to have that great big model on the screen. So one of the things you have to pay attention to is that the more objects you have on the screen, the more memory Studio is going to be using. So it's always better when you're going to use submodels to use the drop-down feature in order to open that submodel individually. This is going to alleviate a lot of the memory problems you're going to have. Now, with this, you're not going to be able to see the main part of the model. So there are times that you're going to have to use the edit option rather than using the drop-down option. So when people start using submodels, they usually immediately just go to the edit feature and edit the submodel from in there, and we get a nice shadow of all the bricks surrounding it. So if you're having a collision or something like that happening, you're going to want to use the edit feature so you can see where those bricks are colliding with the main model. One problem with using the edit feature, especially when you have a lot of bricks on the screen, is that there is a big memory leak with submodels. You'll find it especially if you're trying to use the clone tool, or if you're using the undo option. It usually takes a long time to undo or to get rid of something that's being cloned by pressing the escape key, because there is so much information that has to be transferred from the parent model to the submodel. So in this case, what I usually do when I'm in the edit mode is I don't use the clone tool much at all, and I always go with a copy and paste, and that'll alleviate some of the pressure on the background calculations that have to be done, because when you're cloning, it has to create that other part. When you're just doing a copy and paste, it's only making one instance of that part, so it doesn't have to keep remaking it. Also, with the undo feature, I generally don't even use it when I'm in a submodel. If I take a part off accidentally, I will just go and grab the new part and put it back on, or if I have the part available in another part of the model, I'll just copy and paste it from there. So I very rarely use the undo feature in the submodels when you're using the edit style. When you're out in the main part of the model, like we are here, where we have the parent submodel, but it's by itself, then you can use the clone feature and the undo feature no problem, because it's not having to do all the communication that it would if you're in the edit part of the screen. So I hope I'm making myself clear on that aspect. Back to organizing by submodels. If you look through this one, I have this tower isolated into 6 different submodels. If we go into this submodel here, so front tower level 2, you can see we have no other submodels in this submodel. So from here we can work on this part independently, and we're not going to have any problems with memory because we have no other submodels or parent models we're dealing with, so it makes it much smoother to work with the submodel in this case. Now, if we look at level 5 of this tower, you can see that we have submodels within the submodel. Again, this is going to help you organize it, and if you have identical things like this window, it's going to make editing much easier, where you only have to edit one and it will go across all of the rest and apply those edits. One thing to remember when you are editing submodels in large buildings and large projects, if you have those submodels scattered all through your design, then all of those submodels are going to be edited, even if they're not on the screen at the time. So you want to make sure, if you need to just edit those few submodels, that you first unlink them, and then you can link up those particular submodels, so only those ones are the ones getting edited. Also, with the idea of submodels, what you want to do with a big project, and this applies to building in real life or building in studio, is you want to make sure that your project is as modular as possible. If you've ever watched the designers with great big huge designs, they have broken those designs down much smaller. So for one thing, it's easier to transport, and if you're going to be going to a Lego show, it's much easier to put together a modular design that just clicks in place, rather than trying to cart around a great big huge single piece design. When I designed this model, all of these submodels actually connect into a Technic frame that is hidden in the wall, and that's going to make it much easier when I have to go and build this design in real life, because then I can just build one section, slot it in where it needs to go, and continue along that way until I have the entire building done. A lot of this comes down to being able to think ahead and really plan out your build even before you start adding any bricks. If you have the notion in mind that you want it to be modular, when you're going around designing it, that thought is going to stick in your head, and you can keep working on things and making sure that everything is going to be able to slide into place, rather than building it fixed and then having to go back after and edit it all to make sure that it can do that. It's going to save you a lot of time at the beginning of your design phase to take some time and think about how you want this model to come together. So with that said, what I usually do is I will take my submodel when I'm more or less done with it, and I will create a new file just for that submodel. For instance, if you take a look at this corner, this is going to be built all together as one unit because there's many parts in this that are structurally connected to the inside. So when I go to create instructions for the entire mansion, what I will be doing is breaking those down by file so that each section will have its own set of instructions, rather than trying to create a huge set of instructions in the instruction maker, which is going to take a lot of time. And as soon as you get to a certain amount of pages within the instruction maker, that memory leak kicks in again because there's a lot of information that has to be passed between the pages. So it is going to be much more efficient for you to take your model apart by submodel or in sections, create their own independent file, and then do your steps and your instructions from there. Another thing that can help you out with your large projects is the hide tool. As I said, when you have a lot of objects on the screen, Studio tends to lag a lot. So if we go and we have this building, which is moving very slowly right now, and we're going to start hiding some sections of it, and you'll immediately notice that it starts to speed up more and more and more, and now it's working perfectly fine. So what you want to do is, if you're only working on one section of the model, make sure to hide everything else. Again, when you have it in submodels, it's going to make it easier for you to be able to only display the parts of the model that you want to work on at that particular point. So after you've got it to a point that you can create a submodel out of a big section, then do so. Create that submodel. Make sure to name it something distinct so that you can use this search feature to find the section that you want. So for instance, I want to see the back left corner of this model now. So here it is in our step menu, and we click on the eye icon and bang, we can see the back left corner now. So it's really important to name your submodels appropriately. A lot of them I don't worry about. Like many of these windows, I didn't name those windows because they're rather insignificant compared to the rest of the building. I'm not going to be trying to search up those independent windows. But when it comes to huge sections, make sure that you name them something distinct and simple so that it's easy to remember and it's something you can quickly go and search for and find the model. The last thing I want to talk about, going back to thinking about your design before you begin, we have an incredible advantage when we're working with Studio that we don't have to worry about structure so much. So if you're trying to design something where you're trying to get the scale absolutely correct, like a lot of my models are replicas of actual buildings or vehicles in real life, so scale is incredibly important. Rather than just trying to do things to minifig scale, I'm usually having to get things as close to real life as possible. Because of that, what I really want to do is to be able to get the look correct first. and then I can worry about the structure after the fact. If I was working in actual bricks, I would have to worry about the structure first, and then I would have to think about how I can get the outside to match the inside structure. For instance, if you look at this corner again, I knew that I wanted these roof panels to be angled, and I really wanted as few gaps as possible, and then I needed to line up this roof segment so that it lined up perfectly with the other roof segment, again without a lot of gaps. So I really had to put a lot of thinking into how to do that. But what I didn't worry about at all was how I was going to make these work internally. The reason I do that is because I know there's so many methods to create an internal structure that's going to support those bricks. That's really the last thing I need to worry about. I really want to make sure that on the outside, the bricks are going to work first. There's a lot of Technic pieces. There's a lot of different ways to use clips and bars and everything on the inside to be able to securely mount these parts. So the idea being is that you can work from the outside in when you're working in a digital form rather than the inside out. So just as a recap, when you're doing large buildings, in your design phase, make sure to think about making it modular. Make sure to use a lot of submodels. The more submodels you have, the more organized your build is going to be. When you're editing submodels, it's much easier to do it if you do it from the drop-down menu than if you use the edit feature. Only use the edit feature if you're trying to do something really quick, like change one or two bricks, or if you're trying to see where there's going to be collisions in your model. Use the hide feature to hide any unnecessary parts of the model that you're working on at that point, and you can work from the outside in, and you can always come back and finish that internal structure at another time. Also, make sure to create a different file for each section of your model so that it is easier to create your instruction and it won't bog down the instruction maker with thousands and thousands of pages. I hope these tips will help you out in creating big designs. I know there are many different methods for doing this kind of thing. These are just methods that I use in my own personal design. And I know there are some designers that from the word go organize every single step. I find it rather laborious to do that because I make a lot of changes in mid-design. So for me, this is what works. If you have another method that works or you have some tips that you want to offer, please feel free to leave a comment and share that information with the community. If this video has helped you out, please take the time to like, subscribe, and share it around to others so that they can benefit from it and we can continue to grow the studio community. In the next video, I'm going to take a look at the new mosaic feature in Studio. Thanks so much for watching. Have a fantastic day. Keep dreaming in bricks. Bye-bye.